Okay, welcome to week number 4. We are working the active power of empathize. And we are now, from here on out, moving deeper into the sage powers. And it'll be done in a way that is actually more playful. And we'll get into how this week will pan out. But just note, it's to me, and I sent this in your email, it's one of the best ways because sometimes I had a hard time getting into empathy, just like, yay, me. That was a little bit of a struggle. So we'll talk more about it as we go through. Rick's going to do my favorite,
Yeah.
centering.
Since this week is all about love, let's get into our hearts. So I invite you to close your eyes and imagine that you're dropping an anchor all the way down into the earth and connect with that red earth energy. And with each inhale, pull that energy all the way up into your heart. With each exhale, let go of any tension, any stress. Bringing that core earth energy all the way up into your heart. You might imagine it like lava colored, like the core of the earth, and that energy just fills your heart. Breathing in our connection to the earth. And then when you're ready, imagine your crown opening and the light of the stars and the light of the moon and the light of the sun comes pouring in like golden rays of light, shining all the way down behind your eyes, through your throat, and down into your heart, mixing and combining with the energy of the earth. The gold mixing with the red. And soon your heart begins to radiate the frequency of unconditional love. Feel that energy in your heart. You might even put your hand on your chest to feel the energy beneath your hands. And imagine the sun combining with the earth inside of you and fueling that energy and expanding it to fill a bubble that fills your entire body. All that unconditional love around you, through every cell in your body. Now allow that energy to radiate out and to fill the entire room that you are in. And now let it fill the entire building that you're in, extending your love to any animals, any insects, any humans in that space. Letting your heart connect with the hearts of those in that space. Now allow that heart energy to expand and to fill your entire neighborhood. All your neighbors, feeling all those human hearts connecting with yours, sending out that unconditional love and appreciation for the community right around you. Now allow it to expand out to fill your entire town or city. All those hearts, all those people, all those animals, all those plants. A love and appreciation for all of it. Now let it fill the entire state that you are in or province. Now let's move out to fill all of North and South America, the entire continents, all those millions of hearts. all those human beings, all those animals, all those plants, all those insects, all those rocks and structures, forests, lakes, oceans, expanding now to fill the entire planet with your radiant heart energy, connecting with all human beings on the planet and the few off planet in the space station. All of humanity, all of life on Earth, the Earth itself. And when you're ready, open your eyes and come back to the here and now. So we're going to start off this week by talking about last week and what was it like dealing with your top two saboteurs? What discoveries surfaced for you this week? How is it different from the first time you did it? And what was it like for you? So let's, Don, you arrive first. You get to go first.
Well, thanks. Good morning, everybody. So for me, this was much like my judge was, right? It was hard for me it's still difficult for me to catch that judge or catch that saboteur. But I did find myself catching the saboteur, which was great, right? What I did about it though, catch it, and then I didn't really act upon it, right? Even taking that first step or trying to take that first. I didn't have a lot of sabs this week, which was awesome, right? Yay. That I noticed anyway. Maybe they were smaller than they typically are, and maybe that's why I didn't notice them as much. But what I did was I did catch a few of them, but I didn't take that first step. And for me, just catching them is a big step forward. And understanding what I need to do is step one for me anyway. I'm so much further along in this pod than I was in the first one. And I think it's a lot because mostly because it's written differently or said differently, I think that's I'm just getting it this time around. Maybe I'm ready this time around.
Maybe it's all those things. But I do find that the content now is much more approachable and intuitive than it used to be, than it was. So
yeah, just the explanation, the way it's explained to me, or the way that I take it in, is 100% different than the first time.
And you're 100% different than you were
right
5 months ago when you did it 6 months ago.
Yeah. And I realize that it's hard for me to see day to day, but when I look back at where I was and where I am today, it's night and day.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and give yourself credit for that. The first stage step is catching it. Yay! We celebrate that, right?
Yeah, it even says just take that first step and just start the process.
Right.
That really is the first step, right? Is catching it.
Right.
So
Is catching it. Catching it is step one.
I'm a very slow learner.
Celebrating is stage step two, and then each of them have their own sage steps.
Right.
Asking those different questions.
Right.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Don. David, share with us what your experience was like this past.
Well, I'd have to piggyback with Don a little bit. This experience through has been much more pleasant, I suppose, in that I like the framing of making friends with the saboteurs, with my crew, my peeps. I love the sage side of things. I love looking at the positive, the growth side of it, as opposed to sitting in, I have an avoidant problem and I got to take care of this
Mhm.
problem I have, as opposed to, man, this avoidant thing is so amazing because it preserves a lot of things in me. It means that I care about other people's feelings. Now let's navigate through on how we can utilize it. I love just looking strictly at the beneficial side of it, even when it's being ugly. And because that's contrast. I think I put a post in, about my shadow work. It's just like the fact that there's a shadow means that there's light.
Mhm.
And I'm the light, so being that light, now I'm able to see that shadow, and it's like, oh, hi, shadow, this is so awesome because I'm light and causing a shadow. And yeah, so it's just been a different experience. I've just had maybe a pretty darn good week, actually. So I'm just feeling really, really good about a lot of things, and this has been helpful, very, very helpful, about identifying the parts within me are part of the total of me and how much I love me. And that is them that are parts within. So yeah, I actually welcome the saboteurs to show themselves, and we have fun catching each other. So it's been good.
Beautiful. I really like that we're not turning the saboteurs into villains anymore.
Yeah, that has been a quantum shift, I think.
Right.
Is so many times, and also the thing, I don't know if it was in this or somewhere else, but it was saying, where is that thought going to lead me?
Mm.
Mhm.
And I would be thinking of something, and I'd go, whoa, where's that thought going to lead me? Oh, that's just leading me down this little rabbit hole of ucky stuff. Why is that ucky stuff still there? Oh, because I'm evolving and I'm changing, I'm recognizing, and then you start walking up on the nice green grass, as opposed to down the bunny hole. So I just think it's just all beneficial.
I love that your saboteurs are a bunny hole. And I also
As opposed to a rabbit hole.
I know, right? I love it because
Bunny
bunnies
holes
are
are
cute.
cuter. Bunnies
Right.
are cuter than rabbits.
I just put in the chat how adorable are saboteurs because they're,
Aren't they?
look at me being all hyper vigilant and trying to get all this stuff done. Like, oh, look at you
Yeah.
quantifying your worth for yourself. Aren't you cute?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
And
Oh,
Rick and I,
yay,
the
Judge.
feedback that we'd given to Shirzad, we were one of the very few pods who talked about the strengths of each of the saboteurs. During the first, because
Oh,
we both saw it because Rick's
Right.
Enneagram, right?
Right.
So you see the shadow and the strengths, but the focus was not on that. And we're giving that feedback. Like people need
well,
not to demonize or
bravo.
demonize
Yeah. Absolutely.
saboteurs.
Absolutely.
So
Bravo.
Rick, you make a
Yay.
huge difference. We make a huge difference.
We
We
made
got
a
to change
Thanks.
the
difference.
whole app.
Thank you,
We
Rick and
changed the whole
Theresa.
app. Whoa. All right. Thank
Yeah.
you very much, David. Justin, what was your week like?
Oh my God. Okay. Oh, all right. I'm actually on audio this time.
Yeah.
It was, I had a very, very busy week. And I really got the chance to play with the achiever
Mm.
thing because I was forced to do so many things and achieve so many things this week that I had to allow it, um, you know, to run its normal course. But um, I would notice it. I was really vigilant about it all, and then I would allow time for the avoider to come in just to give me some time. Go play Angry Birds Friends for a while, and just kind of zen out on that, and then go back to it later. So I was using saboteurs to help me through it. It was kind of weird. Um, but it was overwhelming at times, all the stuff I had to do. It's been an incredibly busy week. And I think that being in the program and noticing all that left me more vulnerable to it and feeling more belabored by it than I normally would when I'm running on high achiever unconscious and just getting stuff done. I just have to have faith that that was a good idea, that was a good thing.
Yay, that was a great thing.
Yeah, made it harder a little bit, but I got all the stuff done.
Well, remember, it's a little clunky when we start to apply new techniques too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It can feel a little weird or awkward because it's new.
Hmm.
Um, and applying a saboteur, I like the way Justin says that, a saboteur, um, to Rick knows this ever since we started. I would pause where I would usually send out like an email response to something right away. I would take on parts of that, like, you know what, just chill. Let's just take a minute, like take a beat. And that might be considered the strengths of the avoider, but I learned it um, from my
Yeah.
buddy, like how to use that.
It was very clear.
Sabotudes.
It was a very clear perspective this week on how to use the saboteurs
Cheers.
as helpers as well as things that could kind of mess us up. So it was
Amen, my brother. Amen.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Justin. Alan, tell us about your week.
Well, pretty much like Justin, I was in three different time zones this week, so it was very interesting because I told myself I'd be working on my hypervigilance and my restlessness. Uh, and then, midway through the week, um, with the change in time zone, the app didn't prompt me at the right time to do stuff, and on Wednesday, I didn't finish the entire module. So usually my hyperachiever would be really angry. And I remember it was like the day went really, really fast, and I was at dinner with my team and some vendors, and I just realized that I hadn't done, you know, the PQ reps and the sessions, and I just told myself, not a big deal. It is what it is. So so that was pretty cool because usually I would put a lot of pressure on myself to say, okay, need to get back to the hotel room, need to do it, and whatnot. And I just got back to the hotel room and I went to bed. So so
Hey. Congratulations.
yes.
Huge. That is huge.
You didn't hyperachieve and you didn't beat yourself up for not hyperachieving.
I do realize though that I have, being, you know, my three saboteurs having hyperachiever and restlessness. It's kind of I have truly opposing saboteurs, right?
Mhm.
So it's that made me realize, oh, that's very interesting because I can line up with one or line up with the other, and the other one gets upset. So pretty cool.
Those sabotudes.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know.
what are the ones that are opposing that you see as opposing?
Hyperachiever and restlessness.
Oh, I could see that though, because hyperachiever
Yeah.
is a lot of energy, and restless is like energy here, energy here, energy here. Do this, do this,
Yeah.
do this, do this. Like a little ping pong ball, or a little pinball.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Love it.
Yes. Cool.
You, Alan. Denny, share with us what your week was like. Remember to take yourself off mute.
There she is.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, the thing that I discovered about myself this week is that I wasn't always able to label my saboteur, but what I was able to do was get in touch with, oh boy, here we go again. And what I noticed is that every time I was feeling bad or yucky, or it was a saboteur. And then as I re-listened to Shirzad saying, every saboteur is like we've painted over the golden statue. And that was the most important thing for me today, and for the week, was the recognition that each one of these saboteurs is what keeps me from being in touch with who I really am. And so it's been really great to find the flavor. Oh, today I have a chocolate. Oh, there's my strawberry. Oh, there's my hypervigilant. I mean, they all have a different flavor,
Mhm.
but they all take me away from who I really am. So that's been my biggest aha for the week, was recognizing that if I really, really want to become conscious, I need to be in touch with each saboteur. And I'm not beating myself up about it. I'm just seeing it. So the week was a bit of a wake-up call for me in a good way.
Mhm.
How to take those continuing steps. You guys, it doesn't end. I'm sorry to tell you that, but there's always something else you can work on. Okay, that was my week.
Fun.
Or as I sometimes say when I'm in overwhelm, hey, God, don't teach me anything new today.
I'm good. Enough for now.
I still love that strawberries and chocolate. Wow. I don't know what flavor my hyper achiever would be, but I love that image. I
Oh,
love that
but the
visual.
hyperachiever, there you go. That's chocolate. Now, your people pleaser, that's got to be vanilla.
God, I absolutely love the idea of putting a flavor to these saboteurs, because that would register quicker than me cognitively saying, oh, this is this saboteur coming in. If I really concentrated on it, I would just let that come in and identify it. I'm going to try to do that. That's really brilliant.
The other thing I love about that, Denny, is that sometimes if you're not in an emotional state, you're like, I don't know what I'm feeling. I just know it doesn't feel good. But you might be able to name it as a color or as an object more so than I'm like, I don't know how I feel. Like I can't express an emotion because I don't know quite. Because if we're stuck up here, Denny, you unmuted again?
I'm unmuted, yes.
Did you want to say something else? Did you want to add?
No,
Oh, okay.
I just thought I might. So I prepared a. Would one say that was hypervigilant?
No,
No,
that's vigilant.
that's prepared.
That's
That's
prepared.
preparing.
I like that. And
Okay.
the other thing I like about what you're saying is that it stops us for trying to figure out the saboteurs, which lives here, and moves us into a different part, Justin. So
Yeah. Yeah.
brilliant.
Awesome. Oh, thank you, Mom. Nicole, share with us what your week was like.
Sure. So I recognize that I unsuccessfully in prior weeks integrated the daily focus with a morning habit. But what I recognized this week was my saboteurs were a trigger for me to do the daily focus. So every time I recognized a saboteur, I was like, oh, I got to do the daily focus, and I would go do it. And one of my saboteurs is restless, which is do more PQs. So I was also focused on doing that, even if it was just recognizing, oh my gosh, that's an amazing sunset, or just looking at the things around me and just being in awe of them. So that was really my focus, and I have a child yelling at me right now. But that, hey, stop. That's what I recognized this week, was that I was able to integrate it with my saboteurs.
That's next level.
Yes. Yes. Awesome. Thank you, Nicole. Tracy, what was your week like?
Um, in the past, I've really focused on the pleaser and the avoider. So last week, it was really kind of hard for me to switch that focus to the restless and hypervigilant. But I was, really trying. The PQs really did help. But for me, I was kind of assigned them to situations that I know where they show up. So that was kind of my focus. Like my restless, I'm like trying to narrow down my to-do list, cleaning my office, where that's where it shows up for me, not trying to find the next best thing, but focusing on one thing. So I assigned it to my office. My hypervigilant is my office. And with restless is my office. For hypervigilant, since it is harder for me to catch, I really focused on my hypervigilance with my marriage and my husband. So I was kind of just focusing in on certain things while I learned to try to catch those two easier. Because obviously my pleaser and my avoider pop up all the time, and they're easier for me to catch. So yeah, just training myself to catch those other ones.
Excellent. Yeah. Using this to catch new saboteurs. I love it. Newer to you than the old familiar tribe. Yeah. No, I kept finding myself catching one that wasn't on my list. Like, stickler, where's this coming from? You're not supposed to be here. Wait, that's the stickler.
I think I caught the victim a couple times too. It's like that's way low on my list, but there it is.
David put in the chat, I love the thought of flavors. Sabaritas. Would you like a grande judge, double shot of avoider, victim latte? Beautifully said. So we're going to talk about empathize, and we're doing it slightly differently this week. You'll notice it's slightly different, and we will talk about the childhood essence, the golden Buddha. But think about how much self-love is a thing, right? Like everybody love yourself. You're not loving yourself, but there's a form of judgment in that. I'm obviously not loving myself enough, or what's enough, or I'm treating myself badly or goodly. Well, when you start this process, it's more important to learn how to like. It's when you don't meet somebody and instantly fall in love with them usually, but you learn how to like them and trust them. And so that's what this week is going to be more about. It's more about, what do you dig about yourself? What do you like? Not necessarily that big. So think about it on a spectrum. And he talks about this, but he'll do it this week too. It's almost like appreciation and gratitude all the way to like big, deep love. And sometimes we think self-love means we have to go to that 100% off the deep end love. And that can be uncomfortable if it's unfamiliar. So this week, not only, and I love the other things that he's going to do, instead of just focusing on you, it's like focus on something or someone you love. Imagine the love you have for another human being, or a fuzzy person, like one of your fuzzy kids. And then you're going to turn that love inward. That to me was the key, because never having really known exactly what self-love was supposed to feel like or look like, I had a hard time creating the pathways for it. I can do it, and I know I love myself because I treat myself well. But this was the next evolution. Finding something I love and then turning that warmth, that gushy softness in toward myself. That my brain could do. Does that make sense what I'm saying? And I will be interested to see how you guys find it this week too.
Yeah. And I had a little extra help with that. Two new adorable kittens that just pull out this unconditional love. I mean, to wake up in the morning with them both on my chest and purring and looking me in the eyes, or looking up at me, they're just so sweet. It always would bring up that love, and that love is unconditional. Like, they're kittens. Kittens do what kittens do. And I just sit back and go, oh, aren't they adorable? Oh, you ate my whatever. You're so adorable. Oh, you chewed apart the furniture. Aren't you adorable? But it's like, well, it helps me step into sage. Right. And that's that unconditional. I talk, with my clients all the time about the enlightened parent would be able to say, no matter what you've done, aren't you adorable? Let's get this cleaned up. And that I've been practicing with the kittens. The only time it's difficult is when it scares me that they will get hurt. Like, they're starting to chew on an electrical cord. Aren't you adorable? Just move you. I'm like, no. and Mike reminds me, don't raise your voice. They don't understand. You're just scaring them. I'm like, oh yeah. But I was afraid. frighten people. Hurt people, hurt people. So the important thing this week is that love be unconditional. And so many of us, we had human beings as parents, not enlightened beings. And so they couldn't always stay in aren't you adorable? Let's get you cleaned up. They freaked out, and sometimes they pretended to withhold their love in order to get us to do what they wanted us to do. And sometimes that was out of fear and hurt, but that establishes a pattern that you might notice lives inside of you. Watch for that this week. I'll love myself when. I'll love myself when I lose 5 pounds. I'll love myself when I complete my PQs. I'll love myself when, that withholding love as a way to motivate yourself into action. And the invitation is to shift that and to just love yourself regardless, just for being. It falls right into this whole pull instead of push, right? And celebrating first steps instead of waiting to celebrate at the end. Waiting to celebrate at the end is part of that. I'll love myself when I complete all this. And the celebrating the first steps has been a challenge I've noticed for myself in doing this. It's like, wait, I'm not allowed to reward myself until it's all done. Like, where'd that come from? You can't have your ice cream till you clear the plate. Kind of a mentality inside of me, just very interesting.
I want to add to that. So part of the hypervigilant saboteur that I noticed was I always thought that the candy was at the end of a completion, and I never got it. Like, I think other people, if they hyperachiever, it's always moving the carrot. And so even when I thought I'll finish this and I'll have a feeling of, in my head, I thought I would have a feeling of completion, excitement. Do you get what I'm saying? Like this celebration, and it would never happen. And that is one of the big lies for the hyperachiever. But then starting this new program and celebrating and making little songs or whatever each step, then I get celebration along the way because it was never showing up. And I realized, oh my God, in my head, I thought the completion was a celebration. I had a big tie into that. So for anybody else that resonates with. Oh, Sage Essence. Sorry. Looking at our notes. So you once again, the childhood photo is an opportunity for you to look to see what your essence is. If you were in the pod, if you remember that I had that near-death experience, and I really got to see the golden light within within myself and then within other people as well. Yeah, David, celebrating the journey. And one of the sage steps for the hyperachiever is like, what would make this more compelling? And I've changed it to what would make this more fun right now. Because hyperachiever is not about fun, y'all. But I'm like, what would make it fun? What would make it? And then I kind of innovate a little. But the idea of the essence part of us is that long-standing, unchanging. Mine was or is the idea of being. Are we going to share the childhood picture with these guys because they've all done it already? What do you want to do, Rick? Kind of feels like.
I don't know. Maybe we'll play around a bit and talk about. As I did both exercises just to experience them. I don't know if everybody did that or they just did one. The visualization was very much like the first round where we looked at the childhood photo and you connected with that child and what would have been, and came up with an I am statement. Then he added this other to help those that have issues with their childhood go back and it's just all pain and trauma, right? And it can't see, because we've done this so many times with people that they throw up their photo and it's like Shirzad's photo and they have a real hard time with it. So I tried that one, and it was what came to my mind was an experience from my adult life and not my childhood of unconditional waves of unconditional love. It was marching in the gay pride parade with my mom and my dad and my husband with the P flag contingent, and my parents representing loving, unconditional loving parents, and watching the crowd just love on them block after block after block. It was 2 hours of a sea of unconditional love that just touches and opens my heart right now. And that just like built up that energy inside of me in a different way than looking at the childhood photo had, but equally profound. And I used that through the week, this week that you're doing, to call up the feeling of love. And all that reminds me so much of heart math. I don't know if any of you are familiar with heart math, which is remembering these moments of absolute unconditional love and building that energy in your heart, and then taking whatever is troubling you and immersing it in that energy, like dunking it in until it dissolves. And it's that, in a way, we're doing that same thing this week. It's going to be really interesting and really fun. So,
and that was what I'm saying about find a situation or a picture or someone that just brings you that feeling of love, that anchors in, that gorgeous warmth and love and celebration or whatever that is. Because it doesn't necessarily have to be just your childhood photo.
So my thought is, why don't we share what came up, whether you were looking at a childhood photo or you did the other exercise or you did both. Just curious to see what it was like for you in experiencing Empathize this time around. Tracy, what was your experience like?
I had a very interesting experience. I love visualization. So that was my go-to. But I was sitting in my sauna and I'm like, I don't have my picture. I'm going to do the contemplation, which kind of turned into a visualization for me anyway. But it was at the end, and hopefully this is not too TMI, but you're supposed to look yourself in the mirror. Well, my sauna is like, the door is like a perfect reflection. So, I'm looking into my eyes and I'm seeing all the things. It was a really great visualization because I also like focusing on something because I can always go to that same space wherever I'm at. So I love that part of it. So anyway, I'm sitting there and I am like fully naked in my sauna. And here's this like full reflection. And I'm looking in my eyes and I'm like, oh, I look down and sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. For those that don't know, I had a double mastectomy in May of this year. So I'm like looking at my breasts in this reflection. I'm like, wow, this is so empowering. And I look down and I see my C-section scar. I'm like, wow, it was such a unexpected moment, but it was wonderful. It was wonderful. And it was not sad. I wasn't sad at all. I just, I get a little emotional, but it was really cool. It was really cool. So like self-love all over the place right there. It was great.
Wow.
Can't talk, must cry. But imagine for any of us, we look at our scars or our bruises or all the ways that we might have felt in the past where we weren't enough or we might be broken or whatever, and then sending a feeling of that kind of love to those parts of us or those pieces of us or whatever. Thank you so much, Tracy.
That reframing scars. Like what the, like the warrior that looks proudly at their scar, looking at a C-section scar, the sign that you brought life into the world. How beautiful. Looking at the breast and your scars there, like this is what kept you alive and here for your kids. And, I don't know. I just felt all that reframe come over as you were sharing that. Beautiful. Thank you, Tracy.
And if you can't see the chat, David said, wow, Tracy, big feels. Thank you for being so vulnerable. I know you're on your phone, so you might not be able to see it.
Yeah, well, thank you guys all for letting me be vulnerable.
All right, Nicole, share what your week what your experience of these exercises were this week.
So I did the childhood photo, and I mean, my thoughts of my childhood are, I was very intense. Like I wasn't happy. I was full of responsibility, hypervigilance, right? Like I had to be responsible. And so I went through my childhood photos and I found one that I'm smiling like a genuine smile. It's gonna make me cry too. My God, you guys. But it was just so genuine. And I was probably 4 or 5, the same age as my son. And I mean, I could just stare at that photo for hours because you can see what's there before all of the responsibility, before all of the stuff, right? You can see it. And in the visualization, I mean, the words I got were joy and happiness, and I was dancing around the living room. Not something I would do now. I just don't, it's just not something that I do, right? But I was, and it was there. And I was like, okay, there's something, but it was just freedom and light and joy and love and all of these things that it was just like, oh my gosh, like it's still there.
Wow, I feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just your sharing it makes it there for all of us.
Yeah.
And Nicole, I have to say, that's who you are to me. That's why I love kickboxing with you or love doing things because that's the kid, the wonder and the joy and you know, that's who I see. And I think it would be interesting to see. I bet other people see us as part of that golden Buddha, that essence of ourselves.
Yeah.
And we might not, but
Yeah. Much easier for other people to see,
and
right?
how interesting is it that you picked a picture about the same age as your son
Yeah.
is right? Like, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
Denny, tell us what your experience was like.
I didn't do the experience.
No.
Okay.
I didn't do it in a formal way. I was going to do it, but what happened to me a couple of times this week was in the shower. Without my even thinking of it, I was transported back to being 3 years old. And I got to see how well loved I was. Mm. Mm. And I'm so fortunate. I forgot I was the prayed for child. And so when I arrived, they all adored me. It was my issue that I wasn't enough. It was never theirs. So that's my realization from the week that I was a precious child. I couldn't always allow myself as I got older to have that. But I was very much wrapped in intense, unconditional love for many years. I was a very, very loved child.
It's beautiful. And, when we work with so many people that weren't, that going back there day after day after day with the work that you do and seeing people that just were not, to remember that that wasn't you.
I'm telling you, it's why I can do this work
Mm-hmm.
because I have there's just so much that's already placed in there so that when I return to bad places, they are not the pit. I can assure you. Somebody criticized me. Oh, poor baby. Oh, my father was unfaithful to my mother. Oh, poor baby. I mean, come on. This is on the scale of things that could really hurt a child. I was very, very protected in those younger years, extremely well loved by everyone. And my family used to laugh when I got into therapy. They'd say, well, you can tell them all about us, but you remember to tell them how much we loved you. And they'd say that over and over and over again. And they were right.
I want to presence back because my brain remembers weird things. I want to presence back to the first time you did the pod, and the idea of being the miracle child felt like pressure.
Yes.
You you were the waited for one, the prayed for one, the
Yes.
and that
Yes.
created a feeling of pressure. Like, oh my
Yes.
God, I've got so much to live up to. I love that you had the realization of going back and going, oh wow, I'm I'm perfect just as I am, or and I'm loved just as I am. What a huge difference.
Huge. Huge. To get to the other side of the pressure,
Yes.
to see what it was in the beginning before my little ego put pressure on me,
If I'm this
before my
loved, I better keep
chocolate
doing
arrived,
it.
or maybe it was my strawberry.
You got a double shot of
Yeah, yeah,
victim
yeah,
restless
yeah.
pleaser. Love it. Thank you for sharing that. And what a huge difference too. I mean, I just want to acknowledge you for the difference between when you've done the pods. Congratulations.
Alan, share with us what your experience with either of the exercises was like. And you're on mute.
Sorry, was that me? Did you say me?
No, I said Alan.
Oh, I heard Dawn too. I heard Dawn and Alan. I couldn't tell which one.
Yeah, I heard Dawn too. So
Dawn,
Wow.
go. Go, Dawn.
no, I'll go. I'm ready.
Go, Alan. Sorry.
I didn't know what you said there.
I think this is the pot of emotional situations, because I took the same picture from 2021, and as I looked at myself as the child, I could not notice that my father was behind me. So it was a sporting event that had won something, and as I processed it and I tried to look at my essence, uh, the one thing that became overpowering was the essence of my father, and that brought me to the fact that in my life I had, two angel guardians, my father and my brother, and now both are deceased. Having said that, I know they're up there, and I know they're guiding me, and I know they're still protecting me. So it was very, very emotional and very overwhelming.
Mm. And that's that feeling of love, of being loved and having love and giving love. Thank you for sharing.
Justin, what was your experience like?
It was very different than the first time I did this exercise last year with my first round with this. I didn't have any real moving moment or embarrassment, which is what I had last time looking at myself, and there was a lot of angst there. I don't know. It was, I'm labeling it a really positive thing. Looking at this little guy, I'm looking at him right now. Just such a good kid, and that's all still in me. And he got knocked around a bit, but I'm proud of him. And I did the exercise where I went back and talked to him, and it was interesting to see the the change in this time out. But I did have something this week that was almost an audible version of this exercise. Early in the week I had done this, and I guess maybe it triggered something from that time that I kept hearing this. My first record album that I ever had. It was a comedy album from Disneyland. Goofy was introducing different acts like he was doing an old-time 50s TV show. It was just really wacky and silly. And I listened to it all the time. And I still get little pieces of some of the songs and stuff in my head to this day. Well, I started coming in strong, maybe because I was staring at myself as a 6-year-old. But so I researched it, and I dug and dug and dug. I said, wouldn't it be neat to find this album again and it's not available, but somebody had put it up on YouTube. So I listened to it and I closed my eyes, and all of a sudden I could see my room from when I was 6. And there was a time when I got my parents in to sit on my bed and watch me act it all out. And I played all the characters and I was acting it all out. And that was interesting to watch because I'm like, wow, I was a performer even at that age, you know? And my dad went, ugh, and got up and walked out shortly after I started. He couldn't stand to watch me, do all that. My mom loved it. She stayed the whole time and applauded and everything. But I watched my dad leave again with his disgust. And I think a lot of my pleaser stuff that I have to this day was from that moment. Maybe that was just the first time I really noticed it and registered it, but it's still in there. I watched it happen again. It was fascinating.
Yeah.
But I had to talk to myself. I'm like, that's okay. He just wasn't in the mood, you know? But it was an intercept, and I really almost felt like there were two people there, and I was talking to him and redefining that moment into something more practical in case it was traumatic. But yeah, this led to that, I think, into an audible cue. Fascinating.
I want to also point out the little kid in you might have made a judgment call about your dad leaving, and it meant something bad about you. The adult in you is like, oh, something happened. I, you know,
Mhm.
he just kind of
Well, I
told you.
noticed that it was a rejection, and I'm extremely sensitive to rejection to this day. Very
Imagine
much.
why.
And yeah, I was not being the tough cowboy my dad was raising me to be. I was being an entertainer. He didn't like it.
Interesting how you combined both of those things into a stuntman entertainer.
I tried to please both my parents, I guess.
Yeah.
Wow.
And now you're creating cartoons like the one you watched. It's just like
Yeah, it's really
all right there.
this has been the most extraordinary life I've had so far.
So far.
There's a
You
lot
ain't
more
done
to
yet.
come.
Thank you, Justin. David, what was your experience like?
Many layers to it, of course. I had when I did that experience, I think it was last night. I didn't have physically in my possession child photos. My mom has all of those, and so I'm getting those together. But I'm able to remember all of them because there was one time I sat with her and went through all these old photos and whatnot. So I was able to just basically meditate on it and go through that experience more of in a meditative state where I was just visualizing not just one photo, but several of them that kind of spoke to me as my little kid. And really the essence was just a joyful, playful, fun kid. In fact, they even dubbed me the name Good Time Charlie was because I was always just so bubbly and happy and stuff. Being the youngest of four, I was a little unattended too. So there's some emotional disconnect in that. And so then I realized that throughout my life, I was basically seeking validation anywhere I could get it. And then that's where that distraction comes in, and avoider and victim and things of that nature. So getting back to that, and what I mean by many layers is that part of the experience when you shift it into where do you pull that feeling of love from. And this really has played in deeply with my grief process of losing joy, in that in the early stages of that grief, going through those missing and that angstness, that grief that is very, very deep. If anyone who's lost anyone knows where that just tears you at the core. Now I'm able to focus on, for her, it was her smile. She had this smile I fell in love with, and I've got pictures of all of her smiles. She had this little thing about her in the corner of her mouth that I just like, man, that is the thing, And that to me is just the epitome of love. And so now when I have these moments that arise that I think about her, or these signs that come through, those are the things that I think about, and that's where that's the grip and the traction I get on love. And when you were doing, it was interesting when you were doing that opening grounding meditation this morning, There's also a thing that I've really anchored in on is what I think I've learned. It's called microorbital cosmic breath, where it's you're breathing into your heart and then exhaling your heart outward. And that has been a daily, multi-daily practice for me as well. And it really has helped me substantially in that love conquers all. That is the ultimate reaction to absolutely everything. It really is. It's just the absolute reaction to everything. My saboteurs show up. I love my saboteurs because that's part of me. Something bad happens. It's like, this is, oh, that didn't come through like I was supposed to. Well, that's redirection for protection. Oh, God loves me to protect me, to put me over here. So it's not being a little bit too swallowing sunshine, but it's how I navigate more acceptance, a tremendous amount of acceptance with everything that takes place. And as a result of it, I'm good time David again. So, yeah.
Wow. I love that it's almost like you remember her essence. We look in that childhood photo to find our own essence, but and thinking back, that's what I remember about the people I've lost is their essence, their vibration.
Yeah. And how she just radiated through me, if you will, and just wanted the best for me, and was just always just so uplifting. So it's like, that's I could sit here and in 2 minutes get to tears about it, if I just go to that spot. And sometimes I'm like, wow, I haven't cried for a couple of days. I think I'll sit here and cry about it. But it's a different it's just hard to explain. I guess it's just a transitionary process through grief. It isn't like, oh, poor me, I've been robbed of my love and all of this stuff, victim mentality stuff. It's like, gosh, she just loved so deeply in the way she loved the kids. And then in turn, I remember my emotional absence of my parents, where they're trying to raise 4 kids and do the world. I just turn and pour that into my kids. Let them know how loved they are, how proud I am of them. Speak it, say it constantly, and pull out specific things, and that feels good to be able to do that, to really, really pour into other people.
Yeah.
It's like grief from love. It's love from grief. You know what I'm saying? It's like a different level of sacred love.
Yeah, grief is just like, it's freaking amazing. It's an actual, absolutely beautiful, monstrous emotion. I stand in awe. It's almost like the first time you see the Grand Canyon. It's just in awe. How wonderful it can be, and the greater the grief, the greater the love. So I grieve hard. Yeah. So that was my experience.
Thank you, David. I'm just thinking, that the moments of tears for me today have all been about love. Right? That same thing. It's like, it's moved me to tears. Each of you have moved me a bit to tears today as we've done this process. And it's not because I'm sad for you at all. It's because I'm moved by your love for yourselves. It's just really powerful. Dawn, it's your turn. Share with us what your experience was like.
My turn again. So I can relate to everybody. I'm going to sound a little bit like a broken record here too, because I didn't get it this way the first time, right? And I don't know if it's the way it's being said or what it was, but today, I can really relate to like what Nicole said, right? About how intense it was, and how genuine it was. I mean, I got really emotional so I did both of them, right? Just because I want to try to experience the whole program. I did the visualization first, and after I did that one, the second one really didn't work for me because I went so deep into that one. But the first time I did this, the program, I didn't get anywhere really. And I think maybe it was a little bit because of the way it was explained, or maybe the taking yourself into a situation helped, because I don't really remember doing that last time. So I went to a playground during school where we had a bunch of people there, right? I felt empathetic happy, innocent, worthy, lovable, freedom. Oh my God, there was so much. Um, I think why my emotions came up for me was because of my grief from the past, my childhood past. So I went all the way back there and I just felt like I'm not going to be with my dad anymore, my brothers, my family. It's not going to be like that again. So taking him and embracing that and bringing him inside kind of helped a little bit, but it's still difficult for me to fathom or talk about even. But yeah, it was completely opposite of my first experience with the childhood photo. And I'm anxious to do the rest of the week too with someone or something you love, right? Because it wasn't really brought to that today, but I'm assuming like later in the week we're going to get there. So yeah, it was it's different. It was intense. Very intense.
I love that you went to a playground. What a great visual, right? As you're saying that, I'm like, oh yeah, I used to love swinging on the monkey bars. And yeah, great visual.
Yeah, it certainly was. I mean, and then embracing him during that too, it was unreal.
I love that you tried both, the contemplation as well. And I would, if it speaks to you, it's okay to do that. If any of you want to go try the contemplation that did the visualization, or you did the contemplation to try the visualization later in the week, give it a try. I found it really interesting to do both. That both touched me in different and profound ways, that feeling of love. Oh, next week we
More
get to
tears.
explore the sage perspective, the explore mode, and the innovate, all wrapped into one interesting week. It'll be interesting to see how Shirzad has redesigned it. If you noticed, we did empathize first instead of sage perspective first, which was the flow last time. So there's a little different flow, little different things, but we're starting to head into the second half.
This week, keep an eye out for the conditions or the I have tos that your saboteurs place on you being deserving, valued, or loved. I'm only lovable when I'm not in conflict, right? Like Rick has had in the past avoiders. So when he feels conflicted or has to bring up a conflict, he might have that take that opportunity to judge himself. Does that make sense? For me, my love is oftentimes my value was conditional on what I could do for people, what I could do, how much I could provide. If and after the accident, when I couldn't coach anybody or teach anybody, I felt like I was worthless, and I had to have a whole come to my guides meeting, and they're like, "No, you've got value just because you are." And that was the first time I've ever felt that in my life, and it was not of this planet. It was not of my making. So look for those aspects this week. What are the conditions that I'm placing on loving myself, or even liking myself, or that I'm good enough or worthy or whatever? Just check those out. See where those come from.
And Sage Pod members, we'll see you in 26 minutes.
Everybody go potty, grab something, do whatever you need to do. And bless you guys. Thank you for doing this program.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey, Alan, on a plane. That's commitment right there. Thank you, guys.